So this is lesson 10. We only have this one and 2 more left, like we were just saying. And so our lineup for today, our agenda for today is we're going to share about the hands-on activities that you did, so that the food score, online quiz, and then making the energy seed bites. Then we're going to start talking, do an introduction to grains. We're going to talk about like how are grains actually grown. We're going to play a game to kind of learn about grains and how they're grown. And then we're going to talk about the hands-on activity that you guys will do this weekend. Okay. So let's talk about those energy seed bites and those, that food score game. So how did it go? Did you guys like making that recipe? What were your opinions of it? And you can chat in, or you can unmute and share. I'm seeing a bunch of yeses. So we liked it. Okay. Did you guys practice measuring when you did it? If so, what measuring tools did you use? So I'm seeing some more yeses. Did people use like measuring cups and spoons, or did you use the like liquid measurement, or did you just eyeball it and kind of approximate? What did you guys do? How'd you make? Yes, both. Okay, cool. Very good. Did you guys do the technique like they showed in the video, where you like fill up like a cup or something, overfill it, and then push off the excess with like a spoon or a knife? Did anyone practice that? Oh, 46 says I use measuring cups and spoons. 23 and 13 both said both. Okay, cool. Oh, 46 said yes. 32 says cup, spoons, and a leveler. Awesome. Okay. So was measuring like that a new skill for anyone, or had you guys done that before? 13 said I've done it before. Okay, cool. Anyone else? Has anyone else done this, like measured like that before, or this was totally new? 46, I did it when I baked with my mom. 23 says same. Okay, cool. So this wasn't new for too many people. It was just good practice. All right, awesome. So was there anything that you really liked or didn't like about the flavor of the energy seed bites? Maybe it was too salty, too sweet. Oh, 46 says it was balanced. Okay, good. So the saltiness and the sweet and everything was balanced. That's good. Anyone else? 13 said, I use Nutella because I don't like peanut butter. Oh, that's really interesting. Cool. So you guys are totally learning one of the big points of this class, that you can substitute one ingredient for something else if you find something that you prefer. That's great. 46 says, good and healthy. If there was anything about the recipe that you would want to change, what would it be? And I see that 13 already kind of answered that question. They would change out the peanut butter or the seed butter for something like Nutella. But anyone else? Or 13, if you have something else you would want to change. Or is it like perfect exactly the way it is and you wouldn't change anything? That's, oh, 32 said add some fruit. Ooh, what kind of fruit would you want to add? And 46 said, use all types of seeds. Yeah, that's great. I like that. 32 says, okay, so maybe there's lots of fruits that you like. That's fine. I think that I would want to add like maybe like some dried fruit, some more dried fruits or something, like raisins, or I hadn't even thought of that, but maybe like raisins or craisins, or like chopped up dried peaches or mango or something like that might be good. Oh, 46 says, but you liked it the way it is. Okay, cool. That's good to know. Yeah, I really like this recipe, and I love how easy it is to make and how you can kind of substitute ingredients that you like more into it. It's not a super strict recipe. You can kind of mix and match. So what ingredients did you guys use to add protein to the energy bites? Nuts. Yeah, awesome. What else? Anyone else add anything besides nuts to theirs to get some protein? Chia seeds and the peanut butter, hazelnut and the Nutellas. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you guys got it. So whatever kind of seed or nut butter that you used probably had protein. And then if you added in any kind of nuts or seeds, exactly, those all have some sources of protein. And those are plant protein sources, right? We didn't put like beef jerky in it or anything weird that had animal protein, so. All right, guys, so our new Class Dojo code is YRRXUW. YRRXUW. And that should be definitely for today and tomorrow, and then we'll probably have a new one for the weekend. So I'll post that on like the Class Dojo story, and then we'll talk about that new one on Monday as well. So. Okay, so we will go on now to our introduction to grains. So what is a grain? Can someone either chat in or unmute and share, what do you think is a grain, if you've ever heard that word before? Wheat, rice, yep, very good. Those are some examples of grains. Yeah, oats, yep, exactly. Wheat, oats, yep, very good. Toast, oh yeah, toast has grains in it, exactly, very good. Wheat, awesome, yes, you guys know a whole bunch of examples of grains. That's awesome. So specifically the definition, does someone want to read this for us, this thing that starts with a grain? Have any volunteers to read today? Oh, 46, go ahead. You can unmute yourself and read.
A grain is the seed of certain edible grasses. It is small and dry, hard, and sometimes has a hull.
Perfect, awesome, very good. So my next question then is, what is a hull? Has anyone ever heard of that word before? That might be a new one. You can do thumbs up if you've heard it before, thumbs down if you haven't. What do we think? Have we heard of a hull before? Okay, I see one thumbs up, but mostly some thumbs down. Okay, that's totally fine. So a hull is actually the outer shell or the coating of a seed, specifically on a grain. So like, just like almost all other kinds of seeds, it has kind of that outer shell that protects it, but on a grain, that outer shell is called the hull. So a grain is a seed of an edible grass, and it has a hull or a hard protective shell or coating on the outside of it. Okay, so you guys already said some of them, but what are some types of grains that you guys know? Quinoa, awesome, very good. Someone said tortilla, so like, yeah, there are grains inside of your tortilla. What else? Wheat, very good. Yeah, wheat is a super common one that we eat a lot of. Bread, so bread is made from a type of grain or many types of grains. Bread isn't a grain in and of itself, but it's made from grains. Awesome. What are some of the grains that would usually be in bread, for example? Someone said that looks so yummy. Yeah, so that picture right there is some sort of delicious cake. But it's made from a grain. So what do you guys think? Something like cake or something like bread? What are some of the grains that could be in there? Wheat, yep. Wheat is a super common one when we're baking, yep. But what if you can't eat wheat? What other kinds of grains might be in a bread? Maybe if you've ever heard of someone who's like gluten-free, that means they actually can't eat gluten, which is in wheat. So what are some other types of grains that people who can't have wheat might have? Yeah, rice, awesome. So rice, it could be either like grains of rice or ground up rice flour, for example. Very good. What else? Oats, very good. Yeah, you guys are starting to get a bunch of them. So here, I'll show a picture. Here are a bunch of different types of grains. So whole wheat, like we talked about. Barley, very good. Quinoa, someone definitely said quinoa. Someone else definitely said oats. Here's some other ones that I don't think we talked about. Bulgur, has anyone ever heard of bulgur or rye before? No, I'm seeing some heads saying no. Couscous, has anyone ever heard of couscous before? Can do thumbs up or thumbs down as I go. Oh yeah, okay, so I see some hands and some thumbs. Very good. Couscous, that's a yummy grain. What about buckwheat? Has anyone ever heard of buckwheat? Yeah, some people said yeah. So buckwheat is it's like a cousin to wheat, and the one I've heard of it most frequently is like buckwheat pancakes, for example. They're like a really protein-rich pancake. Barley, has anyone ever heard of, oh, I think someone even said barley. Yeah, so barley, and then brown rice. So that, or white rice is another type of grain. Yeah. So there are many types of grains. Some examples include wheat, rice, corn. Corn is sometimes considered a grain. It's sometimes considered like a vegetable, but sometimes if it's like dried and ground up into like flour, then it's considered a grain. Oats, barley, rye, quinoa, farro, and bulgur. Right? If you've eaten at least 2 of the grains on that picture, can I see a thumbs up? At least 2 types of grains from that picture? Yeah? See a bunch of thumbs up. Okay, cool. So we're pretty familiar with our grains here. So how do grains grow? Does 46 said in cornbread there's corn wheat. Yeah, so in cornbread you have usually ground corn and then also wheat flour. Exactly. And 24 said my sister made buckwheat pancakes for me. Yeah, were they good? 24, were the buckwheat pancakes any good? Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, I really like buckwheat pancakes. They have a slightly different taste, but they're so full of protein. They're really good for you. All right, so next question for you guys. How do grains grow? On a farm, yes. Yep, grains are grown often. They need a lot of space, so usually you pretty much only see grains growing on a farm in a field. Yeah, grains are one of those things we don't often see growing like just in people's gardens. Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay, so here I'll show. So have you guys, for example, have you ever seen a giant field of wheat? And if so, what did it look like? What did the big fields of wheat? Oh, 46, do you want to share? You can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
I have seen a giant field of wheat. It it all grew together, like it wasn't far apart. It was like a pack or like a big family. Like it was never like a. It was not like this is one tomato and then there's a 6 foot and then another tomato.
Yeah, that's an awesome point.
Together.
Yeah, they were all growing close together. Very good. Yeah, so when a lot of times when farmers grow any kind of grain, they're grown really close together. They don't need a lot of space between the plants, and then you see huge fields of them. Yeah, really good. So what did the plant itself look like? 46, go ahead. Yeah, you can share again.
There were like grass, and then they had these like little like brown or something, and yeah, like something like that. I can't really. They're like the emojis.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and 30 just said kind of looks like feathers on the top. Yeah, so here, I'll show you guys a couple pictures. Is this what you guys were imagining when you would say like a big field of wheat or something, right? With the kind of that feather on the top and like a big stalk? Yeah, exactly. So grains, like we said, are in the grasses family, which means when they grow, they look very similar to like the grass that grows in our yards or in a park. But imagine if the grass that's in your yard or a park was never, ever, ever mowed, right? That's what a field of wheat or oats or something looks like. It grows as tall as you are, like, or even taller, and those stalks go straight up, and they have these pretty, I love what 30 said, little feathers. They look like little feathers on the end, and when those big feathers are like, you know, as tall as a human, then that's when the farmer cuts them down. So you can imagine a field, for those of you who've never seen one, a field of like wheat or oats or something looks like if the grass in your backyard or a park was allowed to just grow the entire season with never being cut down. Okay, so we'll continue on. When the just like I said, when the grasses grow as tall as a human and then they totally grow out, dry out. So unlike here where they're green on the left, if they grow and grow and grow and then they dry out till they're totally brown, then that's when the stalk or the big stem gets cut down, and the farmer actually takes that big stalk with the grain to something called a grain mill. Has anyone ever heard of a grain mill before? You can do thumbs up or thumbs down if you have. I see someone like, I'm not sure, maybe a thumbs up, no. Okay, so a grain mill is actually the place where the big stalks of grains go to get either, you know, taking the shells off, and you just have the little, like the oats, for example. The oats aren't usually ground up, but we just have the little part of the inside of the seed. Or if they're going to be ground into flour, that process happens at a mill. So the picture here on the screen, the one on the right in that blue and white bowl, that's just a little bowl of oats, right? Like the final product of oats, the oat grain that was grown. But here on the left, this is a very small version of what happens in a big grain mill. They have a machine that takes the grains after the stalk has been removed, and then there's a grinding machine that has essentially gears in there that takes the whole grain, like the oat or the piece of wheat seed, and it grinds it up into this really fine flour like you're seeing in this green bowl. And that's kind of the process for how we take something like wheat that's growing out in a field and end up with a flour that we bake into like a bread or a cake or something like that. Does that kind of make sense? Thumbs up or thumbs down if that makes sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, oh, and this is a little more explanation what I was just saying. At the grain mill, the little grain seeds are removed from the part of the plant that we don't actually eat. Like, we generally don't eat that big stalk. It's really tough. We wouldn't be able to digest it. So the little seeds are removed from that big stalk, and then it's actually the seed of the grain that we ultimately end up eating. And for something like flour, just like in this picture, those seeds get ground up really finely. But for something like oats or rice that we often eat the whole grain, the whole part of the grain, it doesn't actually have to be ground up. They just, at the mill, they separate out like the stalk from that little seed, and they kind of, wash it and get them clean, but they don't actually have to grind it up. So, you guys listed different kinds of food or different kinds of grains, but what are some different foods that you eat with grains in them? And you can chat in, or you can unmute and share. 32 says crackers, 46 said pasta, 30 said bread, pretzels, oatmeal, spaghetti. Oh yeah, you guys are on a roll. Awesome. Popcorn. Yeah, definitely popcorn. Good one. Yeah. 30 said pizza dough, 50 said corn, bread, pasta, oatmeal, 46 said tortillas. Yeah, so those are tons of different types of foods that include grains. So cereals, pasta, oatmeal, crackers, pancakes, waffles, popcorn, tortillas, and then any kind of baked good has to have some kind of grain, whether that be made, like a cake or pizza crust or something that's made from wheat, or if it's made from, if you can't eat wheat and it's made from like oat flour or rice flour or corn flour or something like that. Awesome. So, 38 said, why can't we eat the stem of the wheat? Oh, such a good question, 38. Okay, so the stem, that big stalk or the stem of the wheat is, how Miss Harrison has talked a lot about fiber in other classes. Fiber in a lot of the foods we eat, we don't digest it, but we can in fact like eat it, and it helps our tummies, work properly and whatnot. But then there's other parts of plants that are made from something very similar to fiber, but actually we just can't digest it at all. It's way too hard. It's we don't have the right kind of like digestion parts to be able to process it at all. And so the stem of the wheat is something like that. It would be more like trying to chew on wood. It would be that hard. And so our bodies just can't break it down at all. So there are two types of grains. There's whole grains and refined grains. Has anyone ever heard of those terms before? If you have, you can do a thumbs up. If not, you can do thumbs down. I see some thumbs up and some yeses in the chat. Okay, cool. So whole and refined grains. So can anyone tell me who thinks they've heard of it before, what the difference might be? Okay, not seeing any chats. So I will move on. So the whole grain, the reason it's called a whole grain is just like in this picture, it actually has the entire grain kernel. So in addition to that inside part, it still has something called the bran, and it still has the endosperm and the germ. Those are the different parts of a grain seed. And the bran has a bunch of fiber and vitamin B's and minerals, and the germ has more vitamin B's, vitamin E, and a bunch of other healthy fats and other healthy parts of the grain. And a whole grain still has all of those parts. That's why it's called whole grain. It's still intact. It has all the parts. Whereas a refined grain, the bran and the germ have been stripped away. In the mill, they kind of process it and they take the bran and the germ away. And so it's lost the bran and the germ, which means it's actually lost some of the healthiest parts, a lot of the fiber, some of the protein, and that it has lost some of its iron and its vitamins. So it actually turns out that whole grains are a lot healthier for us. Has anyone ever heard that before, that whole grains are healthier for us? I see some thumbs up. I see some hands that went up. Yeah, and this is why. It's because the whole grain, because it still has the bran and the germ part of the plant, has a lot more protein and fiber and vitamins in it. So, can you guys think of examples specifically of whole grains? So someone said whole grain bread, whole grain pasta, very good. Any other thoughts? Okay, I'm gonna show you guys some examples, okay? So here are a bunch of pictures of whole grain foods, and some examples are actually, so any kind of whole wheat flour. So like when you guys said whole wheat bread, whole grain pasta, that kind of thing, those are all made from whole wheat flour. But other types of whole grains are actually oats, whole cornmeal, quinoa, bulgur, brown rice, barley, and farro. So there's entire grains that just if you see that grain listed on your nutrition label, that's a whole grain. So if you see oats ever listed, or if you eat oatmeal, that's a whole grain. If you eat quinoa or you see quinoa on the list of the ingredients, that's a whole grain. So has anyone ever had one of these grains before, besides whole wheat flour? Because I think a lot of you had that. But has anyone ever had oats or cornmeal or quinoa or brown rice before, for example? Yeah, okay, a bunch of you. Good, so you guys are used to eating whole grains. That's amazing, I love that. Okay, so one of the really cool things about whole grains is that all the foods that we really like to eat, it's actually pretty easy to substitute whole grains for refined grains, and then it automatically makes it a lot healthier. So for example, we're gonna play a game that will get you guys kind of thinking about how to replace a refined grain for a whole grain, okay? So I'm gonna show you guys the name of a food, and what I want you guys to do is either chat or unmute and share a way you can think to turn that food into something healthier by using a whole grain instead, okay? So we'll do an example and then you guys will know exactly what to do, all right? Oh, and 23 said, I love brown rice. That's awesome. So here's our example, a sandwich. If we have a sandwich, a really easy way to turn a sandwich into something healthier by incorporating a whole grain is to replace white bread with whole wheat bread. Yeah, exactly. 46 just said it. So the really easy way is to replace the white bread with whole wheat bread. So does that kind of make sense? That's kind of the game we're going to play for just a few more foods. So the next one is beans and rice. So if you can think of a way to make beans and rice a little healthier by incorporating a whole grain, you can unmute or you can chat in. Brown rice. Yeah, you guys are right. So exactly, replacing the white rice with the brown rice. And it's really not going to change the flavor that much. It might change the texture a little bit, but it makes it so much healthier for you because we get that fiber back, we get a bunch more nutrients, a lot more vitamins and minerals, and a little bit more protein. Yeah, very good. All right, so let's do another example. Muffins. What is a way that you could make muffins healthier by incorporating a whole grain? Okay, I saw a couple people say whole wheat flour. So you could replace white refined flour with whole wheat flour, or if you still really like the texture or the flavor of white flour, you could do a blend. You could do some whole wheat flour mixed in with some white flour. And actually someone had just told me with the previous example that they actually really like white rice better. And that's okay. That's totally fine. Just how kind of Miss Harrison and I have been talking this whole class about one type of food is not necessarily better or healthier than the other. It's all about balance. These are just some examples if you want to, to try incorporating more whole grains. These are some ways you can do it, but we're not saying that one is necessarily better for the other, just giving some brain activity. So, but yeah, and actually 46 just said, or you could put oats in, and that's exactly what I had put in my slide. So you could replace the white flour with wheat flour, or if you don't really like doing that because you like the texture and the way that the muffin comes out with white flour, you could throw some oats into the mix, and now boom, you've got a whole grain. Great thinking, guys. Yeah, okay, cool. So last one, cereal. How could you get more whole grains while still eating cereal in the morning or for a snack? Yeah, awesome. So people are putting in a couple different options. Some people are saying look for a whole grain cereal or a cereal that has some whole wheat. And someone else said you could eat oatmeal. Yeah, so exactly. If you still want that kind of like a breakfasty food, but you don't want to go with cereal, you could try oatmeal. Exactly. So or granola, that's great. So granola is generally made from oats, which is a whole grain. Super good. Yeah, so I just put an example up here, like something like Fruit Loops is generally, there are alternative brands that try to do a Fruit Loop-esque food that actually make Fruit Loops with a whole grain. But just for the example, like on here on my screen, I said maybe trying like Honey Nut Cheerios, which are made with whole grains instead of Fruit Loops, or like this Honey Bunches of Oats. And a lot of times for cereals, cereal companies are really they're on top of it. They know that whole grains are so much healthier for us. And so they generally advertise right on the front, like whole grains, whole grain, whole grain. And you'd be surprised at the number of whole grains that the cereal tastes awesome and you're getting so much more nutrition from it. So good job, guys. You totally got this. All right, so we're going to explain the at-home activity. It should be a real quick, easy one that I think you guys will really like. It shouldn't take, I did it yesterday, and it took me like 5 minutes. It was really simple, but it was kind of fun. So essentially, it's a whole grains at-home scavenger hunt, okay? So I have a 4-minute video that you guys can watch, and then what you're going to do is go on a scavenger hunt around your house and find at least 6 foods that either are grains or have a grain listed in the ingredients list, and you're going to sort them into 2 piles, whole grains and refined grains. And then you're going to take a picture of your sorted piles and upload to Class Dojo, okay? So it's pretty easy. You're just going to hunt around your house for foods you already have and look for at least 6 foods. You can always do more than 6, but at least 6 that have or are a grain, and sort them into 2 piles, the refined and the whole grains. All right, so we'll do our quick exit ticket and then we'll be done for today, okay? So for our exit ticket, we're gonna kind of see how much we learned about how to grow whole grains, okay? So what we're gonna do is, if you guys could pause real fast and just get a piece of paper and a pencil. And when you're ready, then you can give me a thumbs up or type in the chat that you're ready, okay? All right, it looks like we got everyone back. So what we're gonna do is, on the next page, I'm going to show you for real the 8 steps involved in making your own homemade bread, starting with like at the very beginning step at the farm, right? Like starting with, you know, the seed kind of a thing, like the very beginning. And then it's going to be 8 steps involved to having bread at the end. And I'm going to set the timer for 90 seconds. And when the clock runs out, I want you guys to share with me the order that you would put them in. So you're going to look at the 8 steps and try to put them in order from starting to finish, like the order that would make sense, and try and do that in about 90 seconds, okay?
Can I say something?
Yes, please do.
I made bread with my mom like a month ago, because I like baking a lot, so I wanted to do it.
That's awesome. How did it turn out?
It wasn't that good.
It wasn't that good. Oh no. Well, maybe you'll give it another shot.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes, when you're learning a new like baking or cooking skill, sometimes it takes a few tries. Baking in particular is really challenging because you have to get it kind of exactly right, because it's a lot of chemistry in order for like the bread to rise and whatnot. So I'd say give it another shot. It took me a long time to get good at like baking and cooking. So
yeah, or find a different recipe. Maybe the recipe was a little weird. So you can always look online for a different recipe. That's what I do if one doesn't work out.
That's a great.
Well, it didn't taste good because we don't use regular milk. We use oat milk.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe that was why.
Yeah, well, like Miss Harrison said, maybe you could look online for a recipe that specifically is like a vegan recipe or something like that, that doesn't, like the recipe was built intentionally with using something like oat milk. Because oat milk versus like cow's milk, there's different proteins and different binding factors involved. And like I said, baking is kind of this pretty exact science sometimes. So you guys could look for a new recipe maybe. All right. Oh, 46, I see your hand. Yeah, go ahead.
Like 1 month ago, me and my mom, we tried to make macaroons, and it didn't go well. But we're gonna try again, because French pastries, like in all, is really hard to make.
Yes, macaroons are probably one of the hardest baked goods to make. I've tried a few times, and every time they fail miserably, even if I follow the directions pretty closely. So definitely try again. Those are ones that you kind of have to just you gotta practice a lot. So, all right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and try this exit ticket. So there's 8 steps. Try to put them in order. As soon as I show you the next slide, I'll set my timer for 90 seconds, and we'll see what we can do. Okay. All right. Oops. All right, so here are your 8 steps. Go ahead and try and put them in order as best as you can. I'm setting the timer now. All right, so that was the end of our 90 seconds. So does anyone want to share what order they put it in? You can maybe unmute and share.
I see 32's hand is up.
So my order was plant the grain seeds, water and tend the seeds, cut the grain stalks, grain processing at the mill, and do that thresh and winnow thing, and then grind it and package it and seal it, and then send it to the store, and then buy the flour and make bread.
Awesome. Good job. Did anyone else get anything different?
30 had hand up and 50 had a hand up. Anyone want to say?
50, you had the exact same thing? Okay, cool. Go ahead, 30.
My order was first I said you have to plant the grain seed, and then you water and tend the seeds until the stalk is dry and brown. Then you cut the grain stalks. Then you thresh and winnow them. I'm not exactly sure what that means.
Okay.
Then you take them to the grain mill. And then after you take them to the grain mill, you grind them. And then you transport it to the store. Then you buy it and make bread.
Awesome. All right. So let's see. We'll see what the final order is. I think you guys got them right. So yeah, so we plant the seeds, we water them and tend them until the stalk is dry and brown. Then we cut them down. Then we thresh and minnow the grain. And for those of you who hadn't heard those terms before, because we didn't exactly talk about them, that basically just means that you take out the outside part of the seed that we can't actually eat. We still leave in the germ and the bran, but kind of the outer coating is the hull. We take off the hull, basically. Then we process it at the grain mill, and then we grind it into flour, package and seal it. And then we transport it to the store, and then we buy the flour at the store, come home, and we make bread. Exactly. So you guys got it right. Did anyone who didn't share also get that right? You can do a hands up or chat me, me or whatever in the chat. Who got that? How many people got that order right? Good job. You guys rock. Awesome. You guys are paying really good attention. All right. So that is the end of our class. So in just a few hours after the 1 p.m. class is done, then we will post the little instructions for the at-home activity. But we did kind of explain it. It's pretty simple. You just find your foods and sort them into whole grains versus refined grains. And that's about it. We'll see you guys on Monday, okay? Hope you guys have a really great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thank
You
you.
too.
You too.